let's introduce our panelists for today. I'll start off with Ben. Can you tell us a little about yourself and about your company?
You bet, Brandon. It's a pleasure to be here, first of all, and be invited to this discussion. So my background is 40 plus years in the HVAC industry. I currently work as a business development manager for Rheem, and with a focus on the new construction single-family home market. And we'll talk a little bit today about how the newest technology with air conditioning products can assist in the story that we just heard from the Broan folks.
Yep, for sure. Next up, Brian.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Brian Bishop, and I'm with Gold Heat. Gold Heat was founded 20 years ago to solve a specific production efficiency problem in a different luxury segment. And I led the fundraising round 20 years ago and joined the company full-time. And our product is a complement to the indoor air quality, really enables some of the improvements that has happened in indoor air quality by providing some other underlying features, benefits we'll get to later.
Yeah, the whole thing is not all about air, even though that certainly has been a topic that's been talked about a lot over the last year or two. And last up, Jim.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Jim Shelton. Happy to be here. My background is I've been in residential ventilation for over 20 years. I was with Panasonic for 18 and kind of started with Panasonic, kind of leading the revolution to quiet, whisper quiet, high performance Energy Star fans. There really was nothing like that on the market. So you went through that, and then now I'm kind of leading another revolution with Greenheck, and Greenheck is really the leader in commercial ventilation. Probably the ventilation on top of this hotel is probably Greenheck, but Greenheck decided to move into residential and asked me to team up with them and really move in and really kind of bring in more high performance products compared to a lot of the residential products that are out there. So it's like I get a chance to kind of do it again, what I did several years ago with Panasonic.
So this panel is a little bit unique. We've got all three our vendors on here, plus a sponsor. And we're going to do our best to try to keep it from being commercials, but we also just want to talk about the technology in general and the benefits that it can bring to our space. So to kick things off, we've just heard about some technological advancements, obviously bringing some of the smart home technology of being able to monitor and then act upon using sensors to trigger other devices within the home. Where else are we seeing some technological advancements, whether it be in air, water, light, or sound, that you're particularly excited about, both in your own companies and other companies you see in the space? Anyone want to start us off?
Yeah, from HVAC side, of course, although variable speed products have been along and around for several years now, they are continuing to improve. And so I've got a few slides that we'll roll into that actually talks to how variable speed equipment can help assist in that indoor air quality venture to bring a better product to today's consumer. If you take a look at what traditional for builders product for air conditioning and gas furnaces, whether you're using heat pumps or straight cooling equipment, there's tendency to go for the entry-level product. It's competitively priced. It's what we call a builder product line. But there are alternatives out there for customers to be able to take a look at. It's kind of interesting to listen to the presentation there, and very few homeowners actually come in and say, well, what can I do to get a better home from an IAQ perspective? They're uneducated about it. So until we tell them about it, they're at a disadvantage. And that's what we'll talk about in just a couple slides here, is that the typical product is a single stage, but you can jump up to a two-stage product. And then the top of the line product that really has the feature advantage and benefits to today's consumer would be the variable speed compressor components. So if you take a look at this quick example, on the left is a single stage compressor. As you can see, it ramps up to 3,600 RPM, does that right when the motor comes on. The variable speed product will go from a 1,200 to a 1,700, a 7,000 RPM basis. Let's go to the next slide and take a look at what that translates to. If you take a look at the top chart, you can see summer conditions, and then at the bottom, the winter conditions. What do you notice about that? It's not a straight line, right? You've got that up and down demand curve, whether it's in the cooling season or the heating season. And so those are the challenges with air conditioning systems, is you have these swings, big swings for demand, and it also causes the units to start and stop too many times during the day, creating those inconsistent temperature spots that you'd run into. The next slide, we'll take a look a little bit about what that means with a variable speed system. So looking at a 24-hour cooling and heating requirement for the home, you can see the straight line across the top, the dotted line with the 3,600 RPM single-stage system with the summer conditions. And then take a look at the demand, which is the solid blue, and then how the variable speed product goes with the flow of the demand. It operates at a lower RPM when required, and then has the capability to ramp up to the top end levels when required. So, by looking at just what it brings to the party is you're going to have more consistent airflow on a daily basis. It's going to also eliminate the hot and cold spots during the day. And then, of course, the more airflow and more consistent airflow that you have through your filtration system is also going to do a better job from an IAQ perspective instead of these short stop and start cycles.
So you can have that air going
That air
the
is
whole
going to be-
time.
exactly.
Even if it's at a low RPM, you're still at least getting fresh air come in, not because you're trying to change the temperature, but
Exactly.
you're bringing in the fresh air.
Exactly right. So you've got more consistent flow and more opportunity for your IAQ system to support your indoor comfort.
Okay, other technologies that are particularly interesting.
Well, keeping with kind of the theme of airflow, what I'm excited about, and to me it's a long time coming, is the industry really taking a harder look at install performance. We talk about build tight, ventilate right, and it's interesting that there's a lot of products out there that are not tested and certified to perform in a real world application. And so you're starting to see a focus on there, and organizations like the Home Ventilating Institute is really pushing for higher standards because they're really looking at that the current standards that are kind of tied to the Energy Star program are really too low. But what you're starting to see is more studies being out there, and one was just completed by the Department of Energy Building America program, where they did a nationwide ventilation and indoor air quality study on new homes, and it was kind of shocking. They found that 52% of the homes that they evaluated, basically the ventilation systems had no meaningful airflow. So these were high performance homes. These were homes that were trying to build, code Energy Star, or they were in states that had building codes. These weren't production homes. These were high performance homes, and they found that the ventilation system, the fans, did not have the capability to overcome the static pressure associated with a real world application. So you're seeing technology from a lot of manufacturers that they're enhancing the EC motor, the ECM motor, technology, and adding constant CFM technology. So it kind of makes it a smart motor, and it senses a higher static pressure and adjusts accordingly, and you're getting that airflow. So for years I've seen that and known that there's a lot of fans being installed out there and systems being installed, and the raters are not testing them, and we should be testing every single one with a field verification, but we're not. And then that's when you end up not meeting code and the callbacks that come from mold and mildew issues, and then ultimately maybe warranty issues or liability issues. So I really like that the industry is starting to focus on, hey, if we put these fans in, we need to make sure they're moving the amount of air, right?
They're doing what they're supposed to do.
They're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
And part of it's what Taz was talking about, is that we're building so well in other places. We're building this really tight home that we either haven't engineered or haven't spec'd correctly to be able to get the air to flow as we need it to.
Yeah, there's very strict requirements and standards on what the airflow is, but then we don't ever go back and test it and see, did we accomplish what the design criteria was. It's bugged me for years in this industry, but it's good to see that the industry is starting to look at that and understand that that's a problem that needs to be resolved.
And with radiant floor heat, the exciting part is not the radiant floor heat, because that's been around for a long time. It's the technology around us. So because radiant floor heat doesn't rely on circulation, we can use any circulation method and be compatible. So we don't care HRV, ERV, variable speed does not matter. The radiant floor heat still functions and provides the benefits that we have. The other exciting part about electric radiant floor heat is it's stone simple to control, and those controls are now folded into more complex systems. So as people are doing entire whole home controls, as they're designing the bigger picture, radiant floor heat very easily plugs into be an element of that control system. So rather than a separate thermostat over the side of the wall, which you could still do with everybody's system if you wanted to, now you can make it part of everything else. In one of our luxury markets, we have customers that run our floor heat and an air conditioner at the same time because they're using the floor heat to keep the edge off on the floor being too cold and everything else, and the air conditioner really for dehumidification. So ERV, HRV, it doesn't
matter.
So we're compatible with all that. So it's the rest of the world that allows us to play nice with other technology.
And so now you can have that smart thermostat that's
Absolutely.
controlling just the radiant heat. It can be on a timer, so it's on Monday through Friday. I want my as soon as I know I'm getting up and I'm going into the bathroom to take a shower, already have that floor up to a certain temperature, then I can bring it back down when I'm usually not using the bathroom.
Well, and the other thing is that the floor heat doesn't just heat the floor. You're turning your floor into a giant heat lamp.
Right.
Is the physics of that. So you're warming up the entire room. If the floor can see that thing gets warm. So now your countertops are warmer. Now, I mean, you don't have cold surfaces in a lot of places now.
Sure. Other importance of air circulation. We have another slide from Jim that you want to talk about.
Just in addition to the assisting in humidity control and also the consistent temperature, we all know that the target range for humidity is between 40 to 60% in a household, because you get outside of that, and that's where molds and spores can start to grow, and you start developing some issues. But in addition to that, looking at a whole house concept of total value and total comfort for your homeowner, there's also some benefits from a filtration option. Excuse me, I thought it was a different slide. But moving over to the filtration options here, very quickly, from a MERV 1 to 4 all the way up to 17 to 20. This is how the industry rates filters that you guys currently use in the market. You tend to see a lot of folks on new construction just go with the 1-inch filters, which would be in that low efficiency category. And typically, the only thing that those do is protect the equipment, the HVAC equipment, from getting dust and ruining our indoor evaporator coils. So what you want to take a look at as a minimum would be trying to get into that medium efficiency category of a 5 to 8 or possibly a 9 to 12, where you're going to be able to start going after those smaller particles, from a micron standpoint. The way the industry looks at these is taking care of micron particles from 3 to 10, and then from 1 to 3, and then 0.3 to 1. So if you're in that medium efficiency, you can start to pick up some of those smaller particles in a 3 to 10 category. And then, of course, if you get at the top end, you can start getting the 1 to 3s, which is critical to your indoor air health. The only other thing that I would mention is anytime that you go up that ladder and add additional filtration capability, it's important that you consult the equipment specs and also work with your installing contractor, because it does have higher resistance flow through those filters. So just keep that in mind as you design your system.
I think the slide I skipped over that you were thinking of was this one?
Is this one, yes.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, no problem. Just very quickly, one of the additional benefits that comes from the variable speed operation, of course, is quiet operations. And again, it doesn't really relate to indoor air quality, but I guess you could tie that into overall comfort and the sound from a quality standpoint of your air conditioning unit and its operation. As you can see on the sound rating, it's all measured by decibels. All of the, where you see RA18 and RP18s, those are the top-end heat pump systems and air conditioning units. Those are at a 50 to mid-range 55 decibel, which is equivalent to a refrigerator hum or just a normal conversation daily within the family. So very quiet systems that we're developing here. And of course, smaller or tighter lot lines that you're working with as builders, it's important to have those quiet systems outdoors, not only for your own comfort, but for your neighbor's comfort.
Okay, so coming back to Radiant Heat, let's talk about some of the benefits. You know, it's nice. We like it because we go
like
in and
it.
our feet aren't cold in the morning, but there are some actual health benefits with it as well.
Yeah, so if you look at it, if we ever have buffets again, when you grab the tongs and reach in for that piece of fried chicken, the back of your hand gets warm. Well, why is that? It's because we have radiant heat, not because the air is warm in there, but your entire hand warms up. And that's what happens to the body. When your body gets cold, you constrict, you hunch over, the fluids stop flowing. When you get warm, it relaxes you. A relaxed body is a healthy body. So not only do we avoid stiff muscles and stiff joints and circulation issues, the Arthritis Foundation has even published studies about how radiant floor heat really improves. But it's not just the Arthritis Foundation, it's everybody. I mean, who here does hot yoga? This may not be the right audience for hot yoga. but the point is that is another thing where it's recognized where if the entire body is warm, it just feels more comfortable.
Yeah,
It feels
I can fall in the aggravated joint section, so I could benefit from that, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And so there's just this, and from a luxury perspective, and he touched on that earlier, we're 0 decibels on the noise, so we can heat people up with no activity at all. So if you're doing the home office and you're on that Teams call or that Zoom call, you don't have the fan starting up in the background. It's always there. So it's a whole list of benefits depending on the use case.
You sent me over this photo here. This is part of like the design and manufacture process to a specific design, correct?
Right, that's correct.
Tell us a bit about how that works in terms of how a builder would interface with you as a company to be able to design something like this.
So at the risk of turning into commercial, what a builder does with our product is the builder will send us a floor plan, and then we design the wire spacing and outline to be exactly 15 watts a square foot, maybe a little bit less, to stay under code. So we have 17 different wire types. So we can select the wire based on the square feet and get the spacing right. Put the fabric down, cut the fabric to the floor plan, put the wire on that fabric, ship the mat to the builder, and the builder staples the mat down to the subfloor, pours thin set through the mesh fabric, and sets a tile on top of it. So it adds very little time to the construction. It's a production problem we were hired to solve originally 20 years ago. And it's no muss, no fuss, exactly code compliant because we designed it at our factory to be code compliant.
Gotcha.
Off you go.
Okay, so let's just talk about some of the benefits of these technologies to builders. Why should this group here care that these technologies exist, and how do we help them see those benefits?
Yeah, I think from a manufacturing perspective, we've got a responsibility to make sure there's training available, not only for our distribution. With the Rheem, we've got over 100 distributors nationwide that we sell our product through, and we spend a great deal of time training those folks on the feature content and benefit of our products, obviously. So it's important that we take that next step and that we're having those same training meetings with our builders and contractors so that they can communicate that to you guys and ultimately be able to sit with the homeowner and have that same communication with sales collateral materials that we develop, and that you can very simply walk through a discussion like those 2 slides that I showed you. You don't have to be an engineer to understand those slides. They're very simple slides. And I think when you show a homeowner what they're getting in return, they're going to be able to see why it would be important for them to go to a variable speed system and the benefits on their indoor air quality for their family.
We've kind of focused a little bit narrow here. We haven't talked about about light, maybe not too much on sound, but these are other benefits that I would imagine you're getting more and more customers wanting to know about. How much natural light is coming into the home? How much is it keeping outside ambient sound from coming into the home so the home can be quiet?
But I was going to say, I don't think it's bad to focus on indoor air quality, Because if you really look at the research out there, and to me, when you look at the benefits of the builders, to me, it's your bottom line is what you're talking about. Because if you look at the research out there, Green Builder Media did a research project recently where 93% of all home buyers said that they thought indoor air quality was most important or extremely important. 85% said they'd pay more for a healthier home. So the research is out there. I mean, we're coming off a pandemic that was fueled by an airborne virus, right? Indoor air quality is it was number one before COVID. So it's really a top concern for the home buyers out there. And then if you look at what's going on in the market right now, I was on a call, a webinar last week with NEHB, and Dr. Dietz said that in their research, 55% of builders just recently now have either reduced the prices of their homes or increased the sales incentives because you have the material inflation that isn't going down, but they're having to drop the pricing of their homes, which is affecting their bottom line. So to me, if you're not focusing on indoor air quality, and that's what the buyers that are out there are looking for, and they would pay more if you do have a healthier home. I mean, that it gets down to just a business scenario now, because I think that's the situation we find ourselves going into 2023, and we need to be aware of that. So it's the number one concern right now with in the research out there with builders and contractors is price, and last year with the overall demand, you could pass the material inflation costs on to the home buyer. You can't do it anymore now. So I mean, to me, it makes business sense, right, to focus on the indoor air quality aspects, because if you don't and your competitors are, you're gonna feel that impact.
It's all about product differentiation.
Right.
Sure.
It's all about capturing the value. The statistics are staggering about the number of homes that are remodeled in the first 5 years, and a large fraction of them get radiant floor heat. Well, as builders, why wouldn't you want to capture that margin? You should capture that value. Now, if you want to do a race to the bottom and just price and incentives, great. But how about selling the customer on why they should buy your home as opposed to one down the street or in the next development? Yes, we went from I can sell everything I can build, emphasis that on that I can build, so they wanted no risk, to now, oh my goodness, I can't sell everything. Well, sell your home before the next builder sells his, and do that by offering a superior product and educating the customer on why your product is superior.
Right.
So it makes sense to me. I'm curious here with the audience we have, how many of you are seeing customers who are making indoor air quality an important decision component? Okay, so we're seeing some hands, and I'm sure it probably varies a little bit by region, but it's certainly out there, and you have an opportunity to differentiate by incorporating some of this technology into a home to make it more automatic, to make it more smart, and probably some great opportunities to actually showcase that if you're doing an open house and you've got 50 people jammed into a room, to be able to pull it out and be like, look, it's your system is going to be able to hold steady.
Well, I want to say something else. I also think that that there's never been a better time to do it. I mean, the other thing that's exciting to me in the industry is that I've never seen the industry starting to work closer together, right? Manufacturers, builders, contractors, raters, they're all, you're starting to see them all come together. You see, functions like this today, or the Energy and Environmental Builder Alliance. You're seeing it starting to come together where like I said, you see manufacturers coming together saying, okay, let's work together to come up with what's the best solution. I think the people, the gentleman at Brown was mentioning, for this family, this home, what's the best solution for them, and let's work together to get it done. And I think you're seeing the industry kind of move away from like one manufacturer has all the solutions, and you just I don't think that works. I mean, I tried that game at Panasonic with a system called Cosmos, where we were going to be the catch-all.
The end-all, be-all.
Yeah, and I don't think it makes sense. I think what makes sense is to work, like I said, with the builder and the contractor and the rater and a team of manufacturers, and let's work together to collaborate and work together to have a connected system. Yep. But I think that's something that's exciting to me. And like I said, I say that there's never been a better time to upgrade to high performance ventilation, high performance indoor air quality for a lot of reasons. So I think that's the other thing that's good. You got a lot of help out there. There's a lot of people that are coming together to try to help builders figure this out, where that hasn't necessarily been the case in the past. I mean, in the past, in my past life, I would love to sit down and talk to a builder about something, but the way the industry's set up, there's a lot of roadblocks before a builder can actually sit down and talk to a manufacturer. But to me, the builders and the builders and the manufacturers are going to be the ones that solve these problems, right? Us working together, and that has to happen, and it hasn't happened in the past.
Sure. I think I had one slide that you had put together with just some other benefits to builders. I think you kind of touched on some of this on the easy installs. Is there anything else you want to add to this?
Well, the most important part of our product is that it is designed for the floor plan. So it's zero risk or very, very low risk to the builder. It's ready to go. It's because it's designed to the floor plan. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to have if Tim, the tile installer, is not available that day, and he's the one that knows how to do it, and Joey doesn't know how to do it, your job stalls. Well, that doesn't happen with us because anyone can staple a mat down, and then any competent tile installer can tile the floor. So that's the big part, and the fact that we can go around all these corners means that in high humidity environments, a mold can't even start because we drive the condensation out before it can even. We don't even let the condensation occur.
Right.
So because it's always running at some level, generally it's always running. And the other thing that we pride ourselves on is our Nordson's level of customer service, because we don't want to sell to the entire world. We don't need 70% market share. We can provide the service to the builders that value that service, that want that superior experience for the customers. And because of that, because we're not involved in a race to the bottom, we're creating value and allowing and encouraging and working with the builders where we both capture that value. That's a big deal for us to be able to provide that support.
And I think there's a parallel as we're looking at everyone in this room who wants to build new homes of figuring out how do you match that customer service, how do you provide that, because the demographic that wants to buy new homes is going to care about the level of customer service that you provide. Okay, now moving on to a slide we've seen, I think, in every presentation so far. How do we do a better job at being able to promote these features at the sales center? So who'd like to go first?
Yeah, I just think it's all about education. It's, if you're in sales, you're going to sell something that you're comfortable with, and you're going to talk about it and be at ease with it. So it goes back to making sure that we've got our customers educated with the products, and to be able to sit down with a homeowner and be able to show them the advantages of what we're talking about today. I can't think of too many homeowners that if you walked them through a couple short pieces of sales collateral material, explanation of what this does for them from an indoor air quality perspective, that you wouldn't have a high rate that would put a little bit more emphasis on that than maybe upgrading their carpet to another level. I just think homeowners are interested in that health, especially, I think, Jim, you mentioned it with everything with COVID and the pandemic over the last 24 months. It's top of mind awareness right now. So now is good timing to start really taking a look at your business and seeing how you can implement some of these improvements into your process.
Now, I can imagine from a demonstration point of view, like radiant heating, it's really easy to walk into a bathroom and to be like, oh yeah, this just feels, I can feel it coming more up from the bottom than blowing in from vents. How do you create that type of tangible demonstration when it comes to air for customers?
That.
I guess that probably helps, yeah.
No, I think a couple things. One, I was going to say, I think that one thing we all have to look at, and once again, it's looking at the research. You can tell I'm in strat planning mode right now, and I've been doing all the research, getting ready for next year. But it's real clear that the millennials, the generations are coming, they want to be educated and they want to learn about products and things with video. Mm-hmm. It's staggering how clear. So I think that's something we're doing. We're really working hard on trying to generate videos that we could help provide to our builder partners, and it's something you can email, right? You can send it. So I think the other thing is that on the indoor air quality side, and it goes back to what what Broen was discussing, is the sensing capability. We've partnered with a manufacturer that has a simple sensor that can install in your air handler. It can be in there for a couple weeks, and then it does a complete analysis and report and actually shows what the issues are. It can be removed. It can be taken somewhere else. But I think to me that the sensing has always been and especially if it's something that you can put one in that maybe is doing not every room, but it's doing the whole house, right? It's doing your air handler and it's seeing all the it's monitoring the airflow. And then being able to sit down and discuss, okay, and talk about, educate them too, like, okay, if you're seeing a high VOC level, why is that? I mean, did you get, new carpeting? Did you get new furniture? What was going on here? Or there's a high particulate matter? The research also says they want to know, they want to sense,
You're taking the invisible and you're making it visible.
Yeah, you want to have that information, but the next step is you want to understand why are you getting these high ratings? And then how can you fix it, right? I think it's really, it comes down to the sensors. People are buying a ton of those sensors, but I always equate it to like the commercials about I'm not a bank guard, I'm a bank monitor. You have really poor indoor air quality. Just thought I'd let you know. I mean, I think we have to take it to the next step. But I think using the sensors and being able to use sensors that you can incorporate temporarily, do a report, do an analysis, be able to explain to what the analysis is, and then you have this issue, and then here's the solution, and we can put in a dehumidifier, or we can whatever the issue is. I think is key.
So I can see on my app, once I've paired it with Bluetooth to the sensor, I can see a history at any time. What the CO2. I think it also does temperature, humidity. And barometric pressure, I think, are the four things that it does on there. And it's interesting to be able to see when it moves and to think about what was happening then.
What was the event?
Where did I take the sensor?
And there's one more thing too about, the key is on the sales center is the partnership. And getting feedback on what messages work and which messages don't work is a huge point. We think we all have the greatest product. But we need to know what the market really thinks about what we're doing, and are we helping the builder price it right? Is there more? Can they capture more value on that feature, or do we need to make a price adjustment, or do we need to emphasize features? So having that training material and sales collateral is wonderful for pushing education out. But education is a two-way street, and getting educated on what the current market needs are, because those market needs change, is a huge deal. So if we're partners rather than just suppliers, then we can help builders be more successful because we can help refine the message to get out to the marketplace of why someone would want to part with their money for that feature.
Okay. So moving to this wrap-up slide we've used across all the different panels, what are the key messaging points? And we'll kick off the discussion with another cameo appearance by Mike Moore talking about this particular aspect of wellness. So Mike, what are some of the key message points that we should have when we're trying to focus on wellness when we're selling new homes?
When you talk about a new home, it needs to be talked about as healthier. And obviously, we've gone through strange 2 or 3 years, this past 2 or 3 years. That's not the reason for this. I'm talking about, as I am the nephew of an architect, and back in the day, he talked about, as we started to build tighter and seal the house up more, he talked about that it wasn't healthy. Well, obviously, we need to build tighter and then ventilate, which we hadn't done. Now, if we're really building the tight shell that's quieter, that's cleaner, that's healthier, and then ventilating correctly and filtering that ventilation for clean air and clean water, now I've got a healthier home. One of the huge advantages of buying new over used is that I've got a clean, healthy, quiet home that I can feel good about moving forward. To give you an idea, I bought new recently, and my kids bought 2 phases before in a different under a different code, and we waited, paid a little more, but our house is quieter. It uses less energy. And this is just a phase apart based on code that still isn't all the way as far as it can be pushed, but it's quieter, it's cooler, it's warmer when it's supposed to be. Our life in the house is better because of the structures and systems to build tight, to insulate correctly. I wasn't even aware that for years we didn't have to inspect insulation. Now we inspect the insulation so it's installed properly. Less loss of heat and cool. Wrap the home in foam, the additional insulation in the roof lines along with the ceilings. All those things will make your home healthier, more energy efficient, but more than anything, they make my life better. So I'm willing to pay you for that house that's newer, and I'm willing to sell my 5-year-old home to move into that new one because I want new, not old and used. So be careful that you're not building an old home that hasn't been lived in. As an industry, we've done that for years. We've built old homes. We've built to old code. We're the only industry I know that builds to a minimum standard that isn't even the new minimum standard. It's usually 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years old, and we're still building to it. And we fight to build to that rather than pushing to build a better product and sell it for more money.
Thoughts, reaction to that?
I don't know, just to echo, I don't know how you can do a better summary. Quieter, cleaner, more efficient homes, healthier homes. And, that's really what we're looking at, the value that we're trying to provide today's homeowner. Why would they want to buy a new home? Well, he summed it up beautifully. I mean, I don't know how much more you can add.
If you go into the research on CO2 levels, just like that aspect, let alone, whether there's other particulates, once it gets above certain levels, mental cognitive functioning started to decrease significantly. And this is where there's been a lot of research done in classrooms, is that it's harder for students to pay attention, it's harder for them to grasp concepts. And you imagine taking that into your home. How well are you going to sleep at night when you've got good low CO2 levels? How well are you going to be able to function if you're working from home, particularly in today's age where we've got a lot more remote workers? It seems like there's a tremendous amount of benefits.
Well, and health and safety is also luxurious. I mean, if it's a healthier home, it's your lifestyle's elevated in an earlier presentation. So let's help builders sell that benefit. Yes, we're spending more money on health and safety, and in some parts of the market, people are going to say, yes, I want to spend more money on health and safety. And in other segments of the market, it's going to be, I want to be more luxurious, which means it needs to be healthier and safer. It's the same building, it's just presented differently to the consumer.
Yeah, my main takeaway, and I thought it was good, he did, support a lot of things we were talking about, this afternoon. But I thought that the thing is that, differentiating with a new home versus an existing home, which you're also competing against, right? And that the health, that you can, in a new home, you have that competitive advantage of being able to really, design a healthy home where in the existing home, even if it was 5 years old, right? The technology has changed, and I think to me that was a big key takeaway, is that because that's something builders are challenged with too, right? You're not just competing against other new homes, you're competing against existing homes,
Yep,
and that's a really point of differentiation, because even a 5-year-old home doesn't have near the technology that could go in a new home today.
Okay, we've got a few minutes left. I'll kind of turn it over to Q&A here. Katie's got the microphone. Any questions you have for anyone here on the panel, or even for our sponsor, Taz, or any other insights that you've seen in the market when it comes to wellness? I know we kind of got a little bit narrow and didn't spend as much time on light and sound and some of those other things because of who we have at the table. Taz, please.
So earlier we were talking about kind of ways that we can visualize indoor air quality or kind of sell indoor air quality to our potential homeowners, right? And that's always been a difficult task because you're right, it's invisible, right? And without something like a sensor, without being able to showcase some of those studies that you had mentioned. It's not something that someone thinks about on their first pass when building a home. They're looking at countertops, they're looking at visual things, right? And one of the things that our builder did, Southern Green Homes, that was in the video, was he had a very, what I thought was an ingenious method of doing that, which was giving one of the sensors to the actual homeowner before they actually move in. So that
They
when
can take it back home and see
Correct.
what it's like in their old home compared to the new home.
Exactly. And so that gave them a baseline, if you will, of what they're living in today, all the actions that they're doing, right? So it set that expectation up that even when you move into this new home, you're going to see spikes when you cook, you're going to see spikes when you take a shower, but you should be able to also see that ability to drop those levels a lot quicker than before. Whereas in the past, you might have had those spikes up, but they would have maintained over a longer period of time, which means you were breathing in those pollutants for that period of time. So I just wanted to add that. I thought it was a really neat way of showcasing both personal data from their own homes as well as having a point of comparison for the future new home that they're going to be in.
Yeah, what's the routine that I go through when I cook, when I sleep at night? What are those levels? What do they look like? And you maybe take that a bit further, and maybe some of you are doing this. I mean, we have such a prevalence of like Airbnbs now. Can you make one of your demo homes an Airbnb for a potential buyer and say, come spend the night, go through the routine here in this home, get a feeling for what this shower and design looks like, cook on the stove, sleep in the bed, and then I'll be able to compare the data and how do you feel? How do you sleep at night?
Exactly.
Is anyone doing that? Letting their customers actually sleep in a model home? I don't know if that's a thing. Yeah, I mean,
2 model homes.
it gives them a real feel for what those features are and as they're making decisions. Yes, Ken.
Hey, if I'm a builder and I'm depending on my HVAC contractor to design the systems, but I may dictate to them, I give them a prescription of, hey, I want a radiant barrier floor, I want HRV system, I want whole house ventilation for my bath fans, etc. And he's going to design it. How do I know what resources are available to me to know whether he's designed the right system?
Well, in our situation, we work with you as our partner, but understand that's normal, right? The situation you just explained. So what we do is ask you to introduce us to your contractor and then work with him. We also want to work, with like a rater, if you have your rater involved, and kind of create a team, your team, to work, and we work on your behalf. But I think in most cases when the contractor sees what's in it for him, right? That it's a good thing for him, then everybody can win. But that's working for us, right? Is work with you. You introduce us to your contractor. We talk to him. We like I said, we get everybody involved and create kind of a project, a team, a task force to address this, and then make sure that everybody's criteria and what they're trying to accomplish, including the contractor, is taken care of. But it really needs to be a team, right? But that's the way it is today. But that's why we work kind of through you to your contractor, and I think that's what has to happen.
All right, we are at time. So thanks. Please join me in a round of applause for both our panelists and our sponsor. Now is the time. The exhibit 4 is open. You're welcome to continue the discussions with anyone up here on the panel. We'll see you back in this room tomorrow morning. Tomorrow is going to be fun. We're going to talk about modular panels and SIPs, and I'm really excited about both our morning session, which is what do we do if we just want to dip our toe in the water, and then the lunch session is going to be like, I'm ready to go whole hog on panelization, modularization. So I look forward to it. We'll see you tomorrow.